we've talked many times, you and I, and remember that time in the hotel? We talked for 4.5 hours, one of the greatest conversations of my career, you and I.
Yeah,
Are there any stories untold about Dick Butkus?
I'm sure there are. I was sure I wouldn't want them out. We all, we all have our we all have our closets, you know.
On the playing field.
Oh, on the playing field. No, no. Everybody thought that this animal business or whatever. But I actually had a lot of fun. I joked a lot of times, and maybe it was quite a contrast to hear something like calling the signals out, or
Yeah.
we're playing New England when Plunkett was a rookie. I think it was an exhibition game actually. So they came to the line of scrimmage, and it was an exhibition game. So I said, hold on a second. My chin straps. And the center said, call it. And I said, would you mind waiting a second? I got blow the whistle too much time. Yeah, I used to mess with people like that and officials. Nobody knew about it, but everybody's thinking, oh, he's an animal, all that. I used to have a lot of fun.
Do you get a kick out of or pride that comes through when you hear players, they're still popping on YouTube to see NFL royalty and Dick Butkus playing the ferocity of a game that, playing with a ferocity in a game that back in the day, man,
Well,
no prisoners, man, it was nasty.
Well, it's like a tribute to the way I played that people recognized it. So yeah, it's kind of nice to think about that. And did I play so that unusual that people still remember? Like whatever. After the game, I went to the back to the Hyatt. I was watching the game. I had a sandwich, and there was a guy sitting way over with a 51 jersey on it. So sure enough, he turns around and comes over, and he was nice about it. Asked me to sign it and everything else. So how many people have that happen to them?
Exactly.
So you really gotta watch yourself with people. Sometimes they mean well, but sometimes they're trying to embarrass you too. So, but it comes along. To me, it's all like an endorsement that I must have played the game the right way.
Did you ever feel pressure playing?
Pressure?
Mm-hmm. Because I've heard this term regularly now. Pressure is a privilege. It means that you're being counted on to do something.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So yeah.
I knew if I didn't play well, we could be. We would have trouble winning. So that would be the pressure about it. And if it's always being brought up, so people are trying to do stuff to you. I've had some games where they take cheap shots and whatever, and wanting you to respond, and it's hard not to sometimes, but you get them back some other way. It's like the old story with Monty Stickles. My rookie year, we're going to start out with the 49ers. And so we're watching film, and Bill George, Fortunato, they run that play back, and it was Monty Stickles coming across, and he, hit one of the linebackers that, from the back. Stickles was known as a very dirty player. And so they run that back, and so everybody watched it, okay, so whatever. We remember that, okay. So we played the 49ers. We got beat pretty bad, and Cooper Rollo, remember Cooper Rollo?
Yes, great writer.
I had to get a shot in my knee after the game, and we called a wide blow, which is the defensive tackles go outside the guards I go up the strong side of the center guard. Jim Purnell's supposed to come through the left guard and center side. Purnell doesn't come through. They run a draw play, and John David runs right through his hole. So I'm getting my shot. I'm laying there getting this goddamn shot. And Cooper, you got to answer me. What happened on that play? It was your problem. You got to answer to me. I'm the writer. I really didn't know what really happened. That fast. And then when I looked at the thing, he was trying to put it on me. So I really didn't like talking to sports people, writers and that, because just you get burned one time or another,
Right.
Whatever. Because it was always, back then also, was the dumb jock syndrome too. You're a jock, so you're not all there. You're whatever. So
So am I to get this straight? You're in the what would be the training room,
yeah,
getting a shot after the game, and the writers are in there.
yeah, yeah. And he's the guy.
Are you kidding
And
me?
he's the guy that introduced me at the Hall of Fame that I should go in
Yeah.
because
Well,
he was the writer. Yeah.
You can't. You can't ignore greatness. Like
Yeah.
he may have given
Yeah.
you some business, but you can't ignore greatness.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's an awesome story. But the fact that they could just roam around and
Oh, yeah.
did the writers? Did you ever give your phone number out for them to give you a call? Did they ever
No.
call you in a hotel? Did you use your real name in a hotel when you checked in?
I don't know. Martell would just give us our keys. We never check in. I mean, to the counter or nothing. They give keys out.
Because like the old baseball guys, they call, hey, Mickey, come on down, Mickey Mantle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to talk to you. Boom. And this is what used to happen, which is
Oh, yeah.
unbelievable.
No, but they would be at the bar, at the hotel bar, all the writers and all
Okay.
that. Yeah. And,
Very interesting.
And in San Francisco, at Stickles, that weekend, George Connors was doing the radio, right? So George is in there at the bar also, sitting over there. And then Stickles starts getting me in trouble. He says, hey, George, you were good, but that guy right there, he's better than you, And he knows that he's the guy that does our radio, talking, to me, saying, oh man. But we were the same bar. Christ, it's a lot different today.
Yeah.
In a way, I wish I was able to play today, but then again, maybe not. Maybe I liked it the way it was back there. To me, that was professional football, playing on a baseball field that literally went from one end zone down to the other, and then 2 feet later, you're going to hit a brick wall and a chipped Bronco brick there. And somebody said we had a locker room back there, too small for a wrestling team. It's just, I just really liked it. It was, to me, the real stuff, the real pros.
You barely played on grass.
Oh,
I mean-
after a couple of weeks, they painted it.
Yeah.
It was actually, we practiced there. So, you heard that term like with sheep, the farmers, other farmers didn't like sheep because they compacted the ground from walking because of their hoofs. And that's what we did with our spikes. It was literally just dirt and paint. And then, what was it, the southeast corner were, big 2x2s or 4x4s covering the corner of the visitor's dugout to finish the end zone. So the corner over there was boards over the dugout. And then they would go, their locker room would be above. They'd go through the dugout and then walk upstairs and then to this room, and then all the fans are there.
That was an era of the intimacy of the game.
Yeah.
Because the fans are right on top of you.
Oh, yeah.
Wrigley Field was,
Yeah, it was.
intimate,
Yeah.
to say the least.
And you'd get there and there'd be a couple kids, you bring them in with you. Yeah, he's coming in with me, to the game, and it was all cool.
But so to you, it's something like a romanticist's view of what the game
Oh yeah.
was born to be.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
100%.
Oh
The
yeah.
hitting.
It just it wasn't. You weren't thinking so much of the exposure that you were presenting like today. But imagine the TV, and the crowds, the viewership. The Super Bowl, biggest selling or biggest or most watched show. Back then, it wasn't like that. Uh, but I don't know. I traditionalist or
Yeah.
whatever call me. I loved it back then.
But
you
let
know.
me pose this question to you, though.
Yep.
So, 6'3", 240-pound linebacker
Yeah.
who would have been prepared differently, both
Yep.
by training,
Yep.
nutrition, injuries would be treated differently, surgeries would be treated differently. What kind of linebacker would you have been?
Well, there's a guy named Arthur Jones who, when I retired, when I moved to Florida, I started working with him, and he's the guy who invented the Nautilus equipment. And he took me through a couple, and I, made it a point to get through. And he said if I would have gotten you when you were like 19, he said they would have to bar you from playing. He said because that 260, you could have been weighing 270 and been a lot stronger and faster and everything else. And I already had the skill of the game. You could take, two guys and, okay, granted, a proper training, strength training and all that is good. But if this guy doesn't have some inkling of how to play the damn game, you've
Right.
got a big guy that's an oaf that can't play. And so that's the only thing I was always lacking, the proper training. Although I thought I was, I would work out.
But you
and
didn't
do
lift
things.
weights much, did you?
No, I
Yeah.
didn't lift weights because when I was like 8 or 9 years old at Griffin Natatorium on the south side, that was where we swam, is the city pool. And we were on the swim team, so we got an extra, you'd have the normal swim, then they'd empty out the pool and wait till everybody goes, and then we'd go back and practice for swim meets and everything. So in the meantime, while they're waiting for the pool to empty, people, we're back there fooling around with weights, and I had this weight over me, and I fell backwards, and I fractured like my wrist. And I said, that's the end of that. So what I was actually doing when I was like 15, I started working as a furniture mover, and that was my weightlifting, and it was, there's two different ways. What we call positive is like if you're raising a weight, and then lowering it is called like negative, where you can lower about 30 to 40% more weight than you could lift. And Arthur used to take me right through a whole negative workout where you just lower the weight. And you talk about wanting to feel stiff the next day. So when I was working with him, we did an experiment at West Point. And the reason we chose West Point, well, first of all, the strength coach there was a Nautilus guy, proponent. So we went there also because those kids, those cadets, you tell them to run through that wall and they'll try to do it for you, because that's the kind of workout it is to do it properly. So we start, and we're hoping we're going to get some first string football players for them and really help them, and I forget the coach's name, but he was scared. So he gave us like all the, second, third teamers, but still they were cadets and they still had that desire. So the first couple of days, I mean, they couldn't get to the second or third machine without throwing up or having their pulse go like up at that 220, almost a fibrillation. By the end of the 16 workouts, they were able to go through the whole thing and not get their pulse over 175, and they like tripled their strength. So, I mean, Shula actually bought the stuff, and he helped move the equipment in with the Dolphins. So it was a great experience for him, but it was after
Yeah,
I was
after the
done.
fact.
And, I'm like, God.
I mean, honestly, what were you going to eat after practice or going before practice? What were you eating?
Well,
Whatever you
just
can find.
whatever,
Bologna
whatever.
sandwiches.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I, that's a good question. I
Well,
don't know what the hell we ate.
What was your did you guys have pregame
Oh
meals?
yeah.
You
No,
did?
it's the old steak. Load up on all the wrong stuff. Make you feel even more loggy. Yeah, it was the steak deal.
Yeah.
In the yeah. Now I don't know what they have, spaghetti or whatever. I don't
Oh,
know.
it's a smorgasbord.
It's
Yeah.
a lot of advances that way in the strength
Yeah.
training. That's what I miss that we didn't have.
Were I always interested about the term instincts, because if we have 50 guys in a room that never played football, if we teach them one rep to make a play, what percentage of those 50 guys are going to have instincts to play the game? Now you have to have the athleticism to do it. Your instincts were insane.
Well,
Was it the geometry of the game, the angles, or how would you define your
well,
instincts?
the way I would explain it to you is that I was always since I was 8 or 9, because I was the youngest of 9. And a couple of my brothers played organized. Ronnie, he played with the Cardinals for a year or whatever. So I always looked up to them, and like I said, I lived on 103rd Street there, and our we had a decent sized front lawn or whatever, and a picket fence, and so I got the old Skippy jar, and that's what I used for a tee and start kicking, because they wouldn't let me play with them over at Fernwood Park there on the south side. So I just I would, the neighbors must have thought I was something wrong with me, because I'd play by myself. I'd run and play like I got tackled, and all that stuff carried over to when I got to high school.
Huh.
And I was so into the game. A lot of trivial things, and that's why at CVS, I kicked, I punted, I kicked off, I kicked field goals. I never stepped off the field, and that's the way I liked it. So.
And the story goes, you would have been a potential Hall of Fame center.
Well, that's what Gibran wanted me to switch over if I couldn't play linebacker anymore, and I probably could have if I made up my mind to do that. But
you had a lot of good friends as centers, huh?
Yeah,
especially in the division.
yeah, I
mean,
used to have fun with them.
Mick Tinglehoff, Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, Flanagan,
Detroit.
Yeah, he went to Purdue, I think, but I don't know how it started. I think it started with Lucci or whatever. So OB tells the story about we're playing Detroit and Chicago at Wrigley Field, and it's late in the game, and we're losing a 2 touchdowns or whatever. So we're waiting they're waiting to get off the field, so I'm calling timeouts. Then OB said, "Come on, what are you calling it?" And I said, "I want one more crack at that Flanagan, man." He says, "Jesus Christ."
You were an instigator.
And so, I used to have a lot of fun. Everybody thought I was so serious, but like Joe Cap would kneel down facing the defense. They'd have the circle huddle, but you can get somewhere where you can see, and you just read his lips. And then at the end, after he tells you to play, quarterbacks always go on 2 or on 1.
Yeah.
So they'd come to the line, and then I just real serious, Mick, don't forget it's on 2. And he'd be, he'd look up for the snap like that. I said, "Everybody, it's on 2, and they're just like.
Is there anybody that you didn't get a lick at that you wish you would have? Somebody who just escaped your grasp. Got under your skin just enough to get your blood up, and you're like, you know what? I missed out on getting that guy.
No.
Or you got them all. You got them all then.
No. Yeah, it's not that. No, I can honestly not. I can't say. Maybe Bradshaw. One more time at Bradshaw.
Yeah, you forget Terry Bradshaw was just a baby when you were still playing.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy being in the radio booth, calling Bears games?
Yeah. I kind of got got into it a little bit, got a little overexcited a lot, but kind of step on Larrabee and whatever. But no, it was good. I liked it. What didn't I like about it? Well, well, for me, it was, I'd have to come in from L.A.
Yeah. A lot of
And
trouble.
then I'd have to fly to like Detroit and then go to wherever, to Pontiac or wherever,
Yeah.
versus if I was here, I would go with the team and everything would,
Yeah.
that was just where it got to be a little too much. And then, then I got a call from Brent and with NFL Today.
Yeah.
So I figured I'd go do that. And then when Fox came along, they asked, and I said, nah, I'm not interested in running around, traveling all that much.
Are you glad you played every snap in one uniform?
Oh,
This
yeah.
uniform, the
Yeah,
C on the helmet.
Yeah, I think so. Back
Yeah.
then, you couldn't go anywhere anyway. But yeah, I think it was better. I don't know. I often think how it all started. I should have been either a Bronco or a Jet, really, if it wasn't because that Hallis put the fix on my representation, and I know it to be a fact. Because Sonny Wordland told me, he says, 20 minutes, you would have been a Jet. Because Namath was holding him up, trying to, do the deal. And see, back then, the American League all had a hands-off policy. Okay, Denver. Okay, what do you want? Oh, we're going to take Butkus, so everybody stay away from him. Okay. And that's when they were flying guys to Hawaii and everything else. Well, George Allen gets this Vern Buell, who's president of high grades here in Chicago, to be my guy, like at the All-American things. So I used to hang around with Craig Morton because he had a guy from Dallas, throwing the money around and all that. And then I was probably one of the only guys that was told to keep it down by Melton Burrow in some nightclub there in New York. But so I come in from Champaign. I meet with Arthur Morris, and the Denver people are there, and they're talking, and believe me, I didn't have a clue as to whatever the money, none of that, and. And all of a sudden, Arthur's looking at us. Well, that's very good, but we'll spend Dick's money the way we want to. And he says, we've got an appointment with the Bears. Well, prior week, Bert Ingerson, our defensive line coach, who played with Hallis, he says, I can't believe this. I get a telegram from the Bears, and they're saying how you slowed down. Your pass defense isn't very good, and I'm like, what's up, out of the blue. So when I went to Chicago and met with Morris, I said, what's with this? Why are we going over to 173? He says, well, what do you mean? The Bears want to talk to you. I said, well, why would they want to talk to us when they sent this telegram? And I believe Bert Ingerson. I said he played with with Hallis. We'll sell that. So when we go there, he asked about it. Dick's kind of concerned. You got a telegram, blah, blah, blah. And then so, Hallis looks to George Allen and says, well, what's that all about, George? He says, well, Coach, I think that's a mistake or something because we send telegrams to everybody. And then the lawyer says, well, if you do that, then you probably have it on record. And the old man says, yeah, George, we'll get it. Let's clear this up. So they're small talking. It's a mistake, whatever. So George Allen comes back and he says, geez, we must have lost that one, And it's like, come on. And so it was they played it perfectly as I think back now. So Morris says, we're out of here, all right. Because I had to jump in a cab to go to New York for the Look All-American thing. And the draft is on that Saturday. So before I get in the cab, he says, don't worry. He says, I think the Bears are going to call us back, And I'm like, what's the difference? They don't have, they have 3 number 1s, but they're not 1-1, you know, whatever. So I jump in the cab and go. So we do the look All-American thing. We're at the Latin quarters, maybe it was. That's where Milton Berle deal. And so there's everybody with their sugar daddy, you know, and there's me with Vern Buell. And he never pulled a dollar out, and he became a very good friend. Anyway, so the coach was with me, and not my coach, Bill Taylor. So the waiter comes over, you Dick Butkus, yeah, there's a phone call for you. So I look at Bill, I said, come on, you know, and so then Vern comes over there, and it's more, she says, all right, they came back with an offer, here's what it is, this and that, and I'm like, he says, all right, now we're gonna shake on it. And I'm like, how do they know? The draft's tomorrow. How are they gonna duck this? And I said, yeah, what? So Bill Taylor hears what the offer was, and I said, okay. So now Mike Tolliver, our old quarterback, he's with the Jets, so he wants to bring me over to meet Weeb at Shea Stadium there on Saturday, the morning of the draft. So I'm so paranoid that I can't say, hey, I'm already signed. But so I go over there, and by the time I got back, the draft is done. All the guys are in the hallway congratulating everybody. And so I went in my room to pack, and then there's a knock on the door, and I open it up, and it's Lamar Hunt. He comes in, he says, now we got to get Gale. We got to get Gale Sarrazin. He thought that the deal that I had from Denver or the Jets, because we finally told Denver, you know, playing in Denver would be like playing in Gary, Indiana. So they traded the rights to the Jets, and they just didn't. They had trouble getting Namath done, and so they didn't come to us in time. So I says, get out of here. Gale's going to be a Bear, you know, whatever. And okay, so we fly home, go back to school, come back for the signing, and long story short, it was half of what he said on the phone. And I said,
and you still signed it.
yeah. And I said, what? And he says, no, you were out there drinking at that club and this and that. And I'm like,
Oh boy.
and Bill Taylor was right there. And I never told Bill that story about not being that amount. Must have been 20, 30 years later. He couldn't believe it.
But you were born to be a Bear.
Yeah, it
Played in
all
your
worked
hometown.
out. You know,
You're a Bear.
right. Well, it
Period.
didn't. The money would never, you know, didn't matter to me.
Yeah.
It was just the opportunity to play, you know.
You know, you mentioned that look All-America. Believe it or not, I'll often just go on YouTube, search Dick Butkus, whatever. And I saw this look All-America thing with Bing Crosby was the host, and here comes a good-looking young man, Dick Butkus, flinching a little bit, not smiling. You get introduced, and was that cool? Was that?
Well,
I mean, that was there was some great names. In
yeah, I
your
remember.
class,
I remember Bob Brown was
Brown.
all of it.
Yeah,
He was in all red.
he was huge.
I mean, he was a giant.
Yeah,
Oh man.
but that
Well,
that kind of
That wasn't. Yeah, but see, that
was a
wasn't
TV
even,
show.
Wasn't even close to the exposure these guys get now.
Yeah, now.
See,
But see, the bright lights, that took you to Hollywood and TV,
well, that
and
didn't take me there. That was the Miller stuff. That was all.
No, yeah, Miller Lite.
Yeah. So I'm
Great taste, less filling. Which one were you?
I don't know. Less filling, maybe.
Tom Thayer and I talk about all the time. There's not a player, with the exception of one in my 30-some years covering this sport, almost 40 years, said that he wouldn't. It was Brian Cox. He said, I wish I wouldn't have played. But, you don't hear that.
Well, there's nothing wrong with him either, though,
No.
is there?
No. But, I mean, he was a long-time assistant coach as well. But, it's such a great sport. And, yes,
Well,
it inherently comes with danger. There's no question about it. But,
Yeah.
man, guys, you got to get into a certain place to play the game professionally.
Yeah.
mentally, physically, spiritually, whatever the case may be. And I just think it's the most unique sport there is
Yeah.
in that regard.
Well, and you know, with the injuries and everything else, it's you're not like the Lone Ranger. There's firemen, policemen.
Yes.
They go through the same thing.
All right, last question.
Yeah.
'Cause we got to get you out of here. How did you handle losing? And what would you say to players that are still trying to learn how to win?
Well, I don't think I would be a very good person to talk about losing because I would take it personally, no matter what. My motivation throughout the years was that you're never going to play a perfect game, so that there's no resting on your laurels. You can always do better, and that's what happened when I guess I thought if you lost, you had to feel bad all week, and but maybe that was my incentive to do work extra hard on different things to avoid that happening. I mean, how can you explain I get defensive player of the year when we win one game?
1969.
Yeah. So I always had that attitude that there is no perfect game. There's always something, an extra block you can make, an extra tackle, or whatever. You just never know. Always something extra you could do, and that's why I like playing on all the teams. Kickoff. Well, I didn't play in the kickoff after my first or second year, but everything else I was on all the special teams. I just didn't want to get off the field. So, and that's the way it is. I would think it'd be pretty hard to find someone who loved to play the game more than I did. I don't know. It's maybe a cliche, but I'd put up the time that I thought about it and worked on it all those years against anybody. Yeah.